Welcome to Three Count Commentaries. We're going to talk about MJF being absolutely delusional. This won't take long. But I actually looked at this and I said to myself, there's just no way he said that. And he said it. And I'm still trying to process it because I literally read it like 3 minutes ago. So MJF compares being AEW to being a Jew. Now, wait till you hear this. So apparently, this is a quote from Wrestling Inc., but apparently they're quoting SES Scoops. So he was asked why people don't like AEW, why people hate AEW, or why AEW is constantly under attack. And he says, I'm actually going to relate this to Judaism because I'm very good at my job. When you think about why people hate us and why we constantly get attacked, it's because we're different. And being different makes people uncomfortable. I genuinely feel that the reason that a lot of the time you'll find a lot of, and don't get me wrong, there was some certainly constructive criticism online, genuinely, but you'll find a lot of the non-constructive criticism online just wild, irredeemably messed up ish that people are saying that is either untrue or just mean, you know? And I think the reason that's happening is Monday Night Raw is the longest running episodic television show of all time. We have only been around about 4.5 years. That's new. That's different. And what's different scares people. So I actually do agree with Tony Khan for once on his assessment about AEW being a challenger brand to WWE. And I think that's the issue. I think the issue is that we're fresh, we're new, we feel dangerous to people. And I kind of get off on that because I get to be the world champion of that danger and that change, just like I get to be the champion of Jewish people. Excuse me. You are hated because you're new and you're different. What on earth? This is, you know what the crazy thing about this is? It completely ignores behavior. You know, when you have, and I'm not even going to touch the Judaism issue, but it completely ignores behavior. Behavior doesn't take into it. Content doesn't take into it. It's just, we're not WWE and therefore everybody hates us. I mean, morals, values, look, presentation, none of this stuff matters. You know, nobody likes one of the main reasons why a lot of people don't like AEW is they don't like the audience. They don't like the kind of people, the moral busybodies that the show attracts. They're not really a big fan of those people. They also don't like the content. Now, which is the major issue here? Yes, the fans can be a little offbeat, but the major issue is people don't like the content of your show. Now, if you just take AEW in a vacuum, how is it that much different from WWE? It's not super different from WWE. It's different for sure. It's different enough to be a different brand. But is it so different that, you know, is it as different as GCW? No. It's actually more similar to WWE than GCW is. You don't see people come out of the woodwork just hating GCW for no good reason. People hate GCW if they hate it at all, but due to the content of the shows, due to some of the stuff they allow to happen on the shows, some of the idiocy of hardcore wrestling, you know, the blood and the glass and the thumbtacks and the light fixtures and Effie kissing men in the mouth or dildos or whatever, him jacking off in the ring. There's 100 reasons for you to hate GCW that has nothing to do with, well, it's just different. And different makes me uncomfortable. That's nonsense. You know, when people started to hate TNA, it wasn't because TNA was different. In fact, a lot of people started to hate TNA the more it became like WWE. When they got rid of the 6-sided ring, when they devalued the X division, that's when people really started to hate TNA. People always had the LOL TNA attitude, and that still exists even today. But you can't tell me that people just hated TNA just because it existed. That's dumb. This is such low vibrational content when we're talking about why people don't like AEW. Completely ignores the content. He's talking about, well, there's some constructive criticism. Well, there's a lot of constructive criticism. Especially when you're looking at certain people like, you know, Jim Cornette or Bischoff, you know, to a degree, and they're talking about the lack of storytelling, the lack of characters, the lack of structure, the lack of formatting for your television show, how your presentation is kind of crappy, how the talent are somewhat low value, or they don't actually add that much to the show. The format, the match qualities, in terms of the focus on match quality more so than anything else, the kinds of people that they push, the kinds of people they give time to. There's 100 different things I've seen. I have never seen anybody just say, I hate AEW because it's different. This is such a low IQ argument. I'm embarrassed that MJF got away with saying that. And it went under the radar. Nobody's talking about this. For starters, he's comparing being AEW to being Jewish. I don't even understand that. Like, that's like comparing being AEW to being black or Hispanic or anything like that. Look, Hispanics are different from blacks. You know, Hispanics are different from Arabs. Arabs are different from Chechenians. All these people are different. There's large groups of people who are different from each other. There's not necessarily any hatred there. What people do is they attach behaviors to certain religious groups and certain groups of people, and then they blame those people for those behaviors. You know, so that's typically what it is. It's all about behaviors and content. Now, you can stereotype people, which a lot of the Jews are hated for stereotypes. And you can say AEW is in some way hated for being a stereotype in terms of being what we call a high budget indie promotion. You can say that's a stereotype. It's not entirely true, but they love that about it. They wanted a high budget indie promotion. That's what they want AEW to be. You could say whatever you want. They agreed to. That's what they want the brand to be. So you can't even make the argument that they're being stereotyped. You can't make the argument that they're being typecast. The idea is AEW, people just do not like the content of the wrestling promotion. The content is not appealing to people. You know, it's that simple. The content is not appealing. And then when people tell you what the problem is, we get mental midgets like MJF saying, well, you hate us because we're different. We hate you because you're different. That's so low IQ. I can't believe he got away with saying that. How do we let this guy get away with saying some dumb shit like this and nobody's calling him out on it? He compared not liking AEW to anti-Semitism. He compared being AEW to being Jewish, which I guess you could equate also to being a different race or a different sexuality. That it's just, well, we don't like you because you're different. This is dumb. All right. People need to stop talking to these kinds of folks. If you can't think your way out of a wet paper bag, don't do interviews. All right. A lot of wrestlers are just goddamn dumb. Not all of them, but some of them are dumb. And this is quite possibly the dumbest thing I've ever heard MJF say. And he's not a guy who routinely says stupid things, but this is pretty dumb. And it's pretty clear to me that he didn't have any other answer to this question. He didn't have an answer to the question at all. He didn't know what to say because he didn't want to validate a lot of the criticisms that people have been saying. So he just said, well, they just hate us because we're different. You hate me because you ain't me. Then what the hell is you talking about? A better answer is not everything is for everybody. We got 52 flavors of ice cream at Baskin Robbins for a reason. You know, there's 400 different types of ranch dressing for a reason. There's 100 different types of books on any given shelf because people have different tastes. There's a lot of people who are not used to the taste of AEW yet, or whatever. You had 100 different things if you are a thinking person to come up with, and you came up with, well, it's kind of like being Jewish. We wear little hats, right? We have big nose. Like, no, that nobody said anything about that. Nobody cares about that at all. People are talking about your show. When you have AEW botches, it's because there's a lot of botches. When we make fun of the production stuff, it's because there's a lot of production mistakes. There are plenty of things to talk about that don't rely on just, well, you're different. And also it's disrespectful to the people who actually do criticize you and is actually trying to help the product, because you're not taking their criticism seriously. You're not taking it to heart. You're not really actually hearing anything that they say. You're actually living in a cult and saying that we're not doing anything wrong. It's everybody else that's the problem. Yes, our buildings are empty. Yes, our ratings are going down. But it's not us. You hate us just because we're different. Even though it's kind of saying, basically, people are telling you we don't want to watch your show for whatever reason. Listen to the people who are telling you why they're not watching your show. Maybe if your boss was as much into the stats as he claims he is, he would have figured this out a long time ago. He would have had a focus group or something where he could have looked into this. But instead, they get this idea that they deserve success, that there's people who we would be successful if it wasn't for WWE. No, it has nothing to do with WWE either. People have for a long time watched multiple different wrestling promotions. Your wrestling promotion is dying off because your wrestling promotion isn't very good. You're doing things that do not appeal to the casual fans. What are you going to do different? We're going to compare ourselves to Jews. Well, guess what? This conversation is going to be very short because people are not stupid enough to fall into this game. There's 100 different reasons why people don't like AEW. It's got nothing to do with you being different. Just plain different. It's stupid.
MagMongoSlade. Best house I ever drew, Daddy.